Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. It's your boy World of Wrestling back here to discuss about some UFC bets for UFC Fight Night Las Vegas 91. I got about 4 or 5 picks that you guys might be interested in. I'm going to give you the odds on each one of them. I also would like to start implementing this on the channel every single week to give you guys an idea of some of the picks, see what you guys think of my picks and so forth as end results. Another thing I am going to recommend, if this is the first time betting for you guys, and you are in a state where it's legal to bet. In my case, I live in Florida, so I only have access to Hard Rock bets. So the odds will be different, but I'm pretty certain they're somewhat similar. So if you wanted to go to DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars Palace, Sportsbook, MGM Bet or BetMGM, any of those sports books that are available to you for UFC, utilize them to the best of your advantage. Any fighter you see is noteworthy to take under my bets that's got you at a better offer, take it immediately. Obviously, I'm pretty certain you guys are aware of that. If not, then that is something that you guys need to do. If you're not aware of that, each sports book gives their own odds for each fighter, so you need to shop around and see which one has the best odds for that fighter at that time of the bet. If you want to wait until the actual event takes place and you want to look through the entire card, see specifically the picks I made, and then go forth and make those picks then to see if the odds change. They could go up though, so I would recommend taking the picks as soon as you can afford to make the bet. My very first pick, and I will say lock of the night, most definitely, maybe I actually have 2 lock of the nights for this event. The first one is Aviana Potrovic going up against Liang Na, a Japanese fighter. Her record's 19-7. Liang Petrovic is actually 6-1. Very dominant fighter. Very good at what she does. I'm not an expert in MMA. Guys that you'd want to follow is like MMA experts. And any other YouTuber that provides their bets, give you implemented information of these fighters, how they fight, why they think they're going to win. Those are people you want to follow for your important information. Myself, I follow them. MMA Experts is one of the top guys that I actually follow and get information from about these picks. So, in a betting situation here, Aviana Petrovic, moneyliner, easy. If you want to make more money on her, and do not parlay this shit. I am telling you, do not parlay this shit. I am a parlay fucking machine, but even myself have struggled to make money parlaying stuff. Only single bet these things. So take the odds for what they are. If you don't feel comfortable with the odds, my attitude at this point, I've come to the conclusion that doing this betting stuff, you want to at least get $10 or more for each fighter. My limit this week is going to be $70. That means like you're betting $10 a day for 7 days during the week. So that's fine. So if you take 4 fighters, you divide that by 70, you take 70 divided by 4, you're looking between $17 to $18 a piece. That's pretty good odds. Based on what I'm doing, I'm actually going to end up making about over $30. So I'd end up with $100 and something. That's not a bad intake off of $70. You get all of them correct individually, you got some money. That's how I'm doing it. If you guys want to parlay, my best bet parlay would be a 2-bet parlay, which I'll get into. They're both in the 500 range. This Aviana Petrovic is actually minus 500 on Hard Rock Bet. She might be less than on other sports books, so keep an eye out for her. But she is definitely someone that I am interested in going with. She's got a 6-1 record. No one's really been beating her at all. She's been on a hot streak. Liang is actually 19-7. She's lost 3 straight based on Tapology website showing that she's lost 3 straight fights out of 5. That's not good. And I think there's a big age difference which plays a factor. Actually, no, I am incorrect. Liang is actually 27 and Petrovic is actually 29, so the age is not really the issue. But height and reach is. Petrovic is 5'7", Liang is 5'4", so that is a huge indication of an advantage for Petrovic. And on top of it, her reach is 70 inches, while Liang is actually only 67 inches. So that is a huge importance that plays into this, depending on how Petrovic is in the stand-up fighting game. I do believe she's a wrestler, so if she's decent on the feet and she can get her to the ground, that's even more of an advantage to her. But yeah, I would definitely go with Aviana Petrovic, most definitely. My next pick that I would go with, he is Victor Henry. Victor Henry on Hard Rock Bets is minus 450. So if you combine those two together, I do believe with a 2-bet parlay, you get it at minus 220 in the minus 200 range. So if you were to bet like $50, you'd probably win back about 20 extra dollars. You bet 70 on this total. I mean, you're looking at probably another 30 to 40 bucks. So you look at a guarantee $100. Those two I would definitely parlay. And that's it. I would not parlay anything else because the other 2 picks are an iffy. They're actually 3 picks. The other 3 picks are kind of iffy. But my attitude, I think Victor Henry is definitely a solid lock of the night. He's another lock I would go with. He's 23-6. I've seen him fight. He's fairly decent. I honestly would put him in my pick, my actual picks. A list of fighters to put in your lineup. But again, do not parlay these unless it's Victor Henry and Petrovic. I think those 2 are a good parlay piece to put together to make your odds a little less than what they would be individually. Because individually, if you want to make $10, I mean, Petrovic, you'd have to bet $50 just to make $10. That's a huge risk to have to take. And if you bet these individually, you got 5, so you're looking at $70. If you can only bet $70 for that weekend, giving you at least $10 a piece to bet on, I think you're going to be looking at like probably maybe $14, $15. Give me 1 second to see if I can find my calculator on my computer real quick to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about here. But yeah, I think Victor Henry and Petrovic is a good parlay piece to put together. But give me 1 second. I'm going to see if I can find this damn calculator. Here's the calculator. All right. So let's say you were to do 5 individual bets on these fighters that I just gave, 2 of which I gave off. So let's see if I can go ahead and figure this out for you guys real quick if this fucking program for the calculator loads. All right, so we do $70, divide that by 5. You're looking at $14 a piece. I mean, you're not going to be looking at much profit from each one of these fighters, and you're going to have to break it down quite a bit more. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I would just parlay those two. If you're going to do a total of 14, let me see if I have... Let me go to Bet Calculator real quick so I can give you guys an idea what the odds would be parlaying those two together. Let's see here. Minus 450 for Victor Henry. That's on Hard Rock Bets. And then minus 500 for that. Your odds would be a minus 214, which means you if you were to put, let's say, $17 down on that, did that, you'd be looking at about $7.94 total with that. So that would put you at a grand total of $24.94. Ain't that much. I mean, it's something. It's better than nothing. Putting those two together and just only betting $17. I mean, if you really wanted to go crazy and do like a $25 just to do it that way, you'd be looking at about $36.67. So, I mean, that's with the money back that you put in. So 25 plus $11.67. That's not bad. In all honesty, you want to get at least one unit per fighter, possibly, if you can afford to do that in this sense. But if all you can afford is like $70, which again, $10 per piece, if you have $1,000, it's giving you 1% of your entire bankroll. That's fine. That's how I would do it. But I would only pick 4 fighters, maybe 5. Let's just see if we were to just do Victor Henry for $14, we get back fucking $3.11 plus the 14. That ain't a whole lot of money. I wouldn't fucking waste my time with that shit. But then again, I said put down 17. Let's say you put down $17 instead of going with Aviana Petrovic. I mean, you're getting $3.78 back. That's $20.78. I mean, that's not a whole lot, but it's something. It's better than nothing. But the shit does add up after time. I mean, with some of the fighters I picked, you're going to see a lot more money out of that. So, yeah, I think Victor Henry is a good pick. Those two I would, possibly parlay so you get more money back with parlaying it. If you want to do that, I would stay away from the parlays if you don't want to take a chance of losing money. If this is something that you desperately just really want to see some money back in this and stat-wise just win, I would recommend just going and betting on individual fighters, not in parlays. Just my recommendation. One of the reasons why I would pick Victor Henry as a guy in my lineup of fighters individually would be because his opponent is Rina Yaha. He's 28-11 with 1 draw and 1 no contest. He's 39 years old. I mean, Victor Henry's 36, but the guy has been in some good fights, I think. So, I mean, Victor Henry is a plausible guy to go with. Let me go to Tapology and see what we have on the overall record for the last 5 fights with Victor Henry, because that'll give us the most recent fights that we have seen from him. and see how everything with him goes. Let's go to UFC. All right. So let's go all the way down to Victor Henry. All right, here's Victor Henry. Let's go to him. Let's see what we got. So far out of the 5 fights that Victor Henry's had, he's had only 1 loss out of 4 fights, 3 of which closed out for him as a win, and the most recent one that took place, I think it was about 6 months ago, it was a no contest. Not bad for 5 fights in the last few years. I think that's fairly decent. His opponent has got 2 losses out of 5 fights. Most recent fight was a loss. It was actually about a year ago. Montel Jackson, who is 12-2, defeated him by KO, a counter left to the ground, and a ground and pound. He did win 2 fights in this out of the 5 that he's had. The fighters he faced didn't have the best of records. They're not like high-end quality fighters. And he did have a draw in that out of the 5 fights because it was a majority decision to a draw. So, I mean, that was 4 years ago. So, I mean, and his last few wins was 2 and 3 years ago. So, I mean, the guy has not won in quite a while. So, I mean, he's probably just a tune-up fight for Victor Henry. There's a good shot that we will see Victor Henry win. You could bet possibly on the decision, but if you do bet on the decision for Victor Henry, I think that's where it's going to lead to, is a decision. I mean, let's see the last 5 fights. You got a submission 2 years ago in a independent company. He got a unanimous decision against Barrios. Not very surprising. Barrios is pretty much kind of gone downhill with his career. He suffered a loss by decision and a split decision. So, I mean, a lot of his fights end up being decisions. So, I mean, that's probably the best bet. If you want to improve your odds with him and go with betting on him for a decision, that's where I would lean to. If it's in plus money, I just bet $10 easy because you're guaranteed to at least get the $10 back plus a little something extra. So that's what I would do. I would just bet $10, save yourself from losing any major amount of money out of your $70 that you might have to afford to spurge on, and just go that route. That's what I would do. If you want to just money line it so you don't have to worry about the end decision, the end result of the fight and who wins, and you just want to worry about who actually wins, that's probably the smartest thing to do. But that's where I would go with that. An actual dog, an underdog that I think would probably be a good idea to go with to bet $10 on would be David Onami against Jonathan Pierce. Jonathan Pierce is 14-5. He has a fairly decent record. And David Onami is 11-2. So, I mean, they both got fairly decent, chances of winning. And they both have good records. I mean, recently, though, David Onami does suffer 2 losses in UFC. But he does have 3 wins in UFC as well. So he's kind of an up and down fighter. Jonathan Pierce, though, on the other hand, he's been winning quite a bit, but his most recent fight comes from a loss by a rear naked choke by Joe Anderson Brito. He was 15-3, and he beat him by a ninja choke. and he lost 5 months ago to this opponent. So David Onami is actually a good pick. He's actually a plus 130. So if you bet on him for $10, you're going to win back $23. So it gives you about $13 with what you also put in. So that's why it's 23, but you get my point. But yeah, I mean, right there, you got a good shot at making some good money. It's a fairly close line. They're not like, one's not expected to over, kill the other guy who's an underdog. But yeah, that would be my underdog that I would go with. Fairly decent fighter. I mean, if you wanted to go possibly with a with a specific way he wins, you could, but I mean, that's just risking the chances of just walking away with a W. So, I mean, I would just money line it and go with David Onami on that fight for $10. I mean, if you want to go for the finish, I mean, it shows here that he's finished out of the 5 guys. He's finished people with KOs and a submission as one of them. So I personally, I would just go with a knockout if you're going to go with a finish. That's your best bet, I think. Otherwise, I would just money line him to win any which way possible. That way you don't have to worry about him possibly losing, or, well, not possibly losing, but him possibly just winning in a different result, and then you end up losing the money anyway. So me personally, I would just take the plus 130 and bet $10 on it. You win back $23 altogether. So I think that's a fairly decent reward for betting on an underdog. I'm not a huge fan on underdogs because they don't always win. Their chances of winning is not always high. But I have noticed, though, on the UFC fight night cards, they seem to win a little bit more than they do on the pay-per-views. Pay-per-views, they happen to win a lot less on pay-per-views. Most of the time, the favorites are the winners. Like couple of it was last month UFC 299. I had, I think, about 9 picks in a parlay, and I had 8 out of 9 correct. Had I removed the one with Dustin Poirier, I bet against Dustin Poirier and I lost. So I ended up losing that entire parlay. I had a huge parlay. I was nailing it left and right, man. Had I bet all of them individually, I'd have won a shit ton of fucking money back. I think I actually did. I bet that shit individually too, on top of parlaying it. So I did win some good amount of money. That's why I recommend just betting these individually. It's not worth wasting the money, throwing a bunch of money down, or the money that you can afford and just walk away with nothing. At least if you do these individually, you walk away with something. So, if you did like what I did, a 9 pick'em fight, and you did them individually, I would have won 8 out of 9. That's a very good record right there. 8-1, that's fucking awesome. So that's where I've come to the conclusion betting these in parlays is not easy. I mean, if you want to do 2 bet parlays or even possibly 3, that's fine. But if you go more than that, you're just risking losing your money. I've done it. I've been losing. I'm at a 50% winning rate. I'm at about 55% winning rate. But I've done so many parlays, so I'm good with the parlays, but it's not getting me where I really want to be. So I think betting individually is a lot better than betting parlays and all that shit, as I've already mentioned 100 times in this video. Anyway, moving on to Janata Diniz going up against Austin Lane. Austin Lane's 12-4. He's also, I think, a lot older than Diniz. Dinez is a very good prospect. He's 6-0. He's a minus 275 on Hard Rock Bet, so he's got a good, decent shot at winning this. I think he's an excellent pick. I think he's going to give me a W on this one. So I'm going with Dinez. I think he's got it. I've heard a lot of people say a lot of positive things on YouTube about him. And every time that someone comes across this, they have selected Dinez over Lane. So my attitude is, fuck it. MMA experts really gives out good picks. I mean, their winning records are pretty decent. And my attitude is, I would bet on this motherfucker. He's got something to offer. 6-0 record going up against a guy who's 36 years old. He's very close to 40 years old. While, I mean, Dinez is only 32 years old. So he's not that old. He's fairly decent age at this point in time in a career. So he's got some time left in his career, and he started out late, so it's not like he's gonna his career is gonna end real soon or something. He's got some time left in him. He's got some shelf life. Height and reach, I mean, he is at a disadvantage with the height. 6'6" Lane. Dinez is actually 6'4", and he has a 79.5 inch reach advantage. Or 79.5 reach, while Lane has an 80-inch reach. So not much of a reach disadvantage for Dinez, but the height does play a factor in here. So that is something to be careful with, I think, and depending on their fighting styles, that's also another indicator on whether or not this is worth it. But my personal opinion, I think it's a safe bet, especially if you're only dropping like 10 to, I think I dropped like $18 on this one since he was a -2. Well, at the time I made the bet, it was a -260. It did go up to a -275. So I think that this is a very good pick. I think you do find a lot of value out of this one. Give me 1 second. I'll tell you guys exactly my amount that I would be receiving here. With my odds, it was a -260. And we're going ahead. I believe I dropped $18. So, yeah, I mean, you're looking at $6.92 extra. If I bet 17, it's still $6, but it's $23.54. So, I mean, you're looking at a fairly decent payoff. I mean, it's about $11 off from what you're putting in. I mean, again, this is the bettor is always at a disadvantage. Like everything else in life, the house always wins, basically, in a sense. I mean, you take what you can get. And I think with dropping only $17 on something like this, it's not a huge loss. You throw the $17 in, it all equals out for the best. So, I mean, I do expect that you might end up getting a loss here in one of these picks. If you walk away scot-free with all four of them closing for you, congratulations. And congratulations to me, of course, because I'm the one making these fucking picks, and I'm giving you these picks to help you guys out and to help out this channel, because I need to find other content to go over with you guys. And I like UFC. I follow it, and especially with the betting, it makes it a lot more fun to actually sit back and relax and watch it and scream my full head off at the fact that I either win or lose. I mean, when I watch these fights, I really get crazy. But yeah. Anyway, let's move on here. Two more fighters. Two fighters I did add to this was another huge favorite and a underdog. I think the underdog's more worth it than betting on Victor Henry, even though I do feel positive he's going to win. If you wanted to go ahead and drop down some money to make at least $10 or more on one fighter alone, I would bet on David Onami, which again is a plus 130. So I would definitely go with him in your bets if you want to go that route. If you need to spend a little bit less, well, let's say like $60, I drop $10 on him and then go with 3 out of the 4 that I gave you guys to choose from and go from there. The next fighter I would choose from out of this humongous 13 fight card, I would go with Karine Silva against Arnie. I can't pronounce the name. Ian Lipsky. Lipsky is actually 17-8. She's got a fairly decent, record, but Karine Silva is 17-4 with the last 5 fights. She's 5-0. She's been beating the shit out of everybody. And she's been winning a lot of her fights by submission. Damn, all 5 fights she had, based on Tapology, she has won by submission. So if you want to go ahead and get a little fucking crazy, she's a minus 160 on Hard Rock Bet. So if you want to get crazy, you could go with a submission and go with that. I don't know what the odds are on that. I don't think that's available yet for me to make that pick. I'm not going back and changing anything. I'm leaving my picks exactly the way they are. I might try to implement that in some other fight card event at some other time. But Karine Silva is definitely a woman I would pick in my 4-fighter selection. She's definitely a lock I would go with. I think she's got a good shot. Lipsky is not bad either. She's 4-1 out of her last 5 fights. Her last fight most recently was 4 months ago in late 2023. And she won by submission against Cassie O'Neill. She was 9-1. So that's not bad. She's definitely a challenging fighter, but I'm still going to go with Karine Silva. A lot of other people on YouTube have stated Karine Silva is definitely a lock that they would choose to put in their list of fighters to pick to win. So my attitude is I would go Karine Silva and go with that, because Karine Silva is 17-4, number 1, and number 2. For the last 5 fights, she's defeated all of her opponents, and they were finishes. Finish. On the other hand, Lipsky has had another fight that was 9 months ago that ended in a split decision. That's not so hot. She won another fight by unanimous decision, which is good. She did lose by a TKO or knockout with punches, and then she won another decision. So most of her fights do go decisions. So she's not really a closer. She's more of a kind of control the fight, get the judges to agree that she won the fight. That's pretty much it. Karine Silva, though, she's a finisher. She goes ahead and she will tear her opponent apart, apparently, based on the wins, and she submits her opponents. She's a submission artist. So, again, like I said, I would, if you can get plus money with her for $10 with a submission, go for it. If she's minus 1 something, I wouldn't even bother with it. Just money line it. Wouldn't even fucking worry about it. Just money line Karine Silva to just win, and that is it. That's how I'd do that. But yeah, she is $18. I dropped on her. I'm more certain that I dropped 18 on her than I did on Dinez. Let me check here real quick. How much you would get back on that? I'm pretty sure you get a fairly decent amount. 160 on Hard Rock. Let's go ahead and put 18 in. You get $11.25. That is a very, very good price you get back for that. And that's definitely something worth putting your money in for, because at least you get close to where you want to be. You're only like $7 off of what you put in. So I think that's a fairly decent price for what you're getting back for it. So that's just my viewpoint on that. Karine Silva, definitely somebody I would go for in that fight, and her opponent is not something I would be too concerned with. I mean, unless something goes terribly wrong, which it can happen because, again, they're human and things happen. I mean, all it takes is one slip and you're fucked. So, again, like I said, bet these individually. Anyway, the last one is the main event. Matthews Nikolai against Alex Perez. Alex Perez, age difference is not that much. Nikolai is 31 years old, while Perez is 32 years old. But when you look at their records, Nikolai is 19-3, and in his last 5 fights, he's won 4 out of 5 fights. Excuse me. He's gotten 4 wins, 1 loss. His last loss was against Brandon Royval, who recently, a couple of months ago, fought on UFC Fight Night and won a big fight against against a former UFC champion in his weight class. So, in all honesty, I think that this is a definite consideration. While Perez is 24-8, he has 3 back-to-back losses since, he's been losing constantly. He's not a guy I would be too concerned about. I think Nikolai has a fairly decent shot at winning this, and I believe I would go for possibly a knockout, maybe a decision, but I wouldn't bet the situation how the fight ends. I would just bet on money lining it. He's a minus 190, I believe, at this point, and he's a good pick. I really believe that. I think he is going to do some really good shit here, and I think we are going to be very satisfied with the end result. Again, he is 190 on Hard Rock Bet. I don't know what he is on other sports books because I do not have access to it, but you'll win back $9.47 along with the $18, giving you a grand total of $27.47. With my odds and what I put in, I'm looking at $70 and I'm winning back $100 and something odd cents if I get all 4 of them correct. Voila, there you go. Thank you, ma'am. Have a lovely day. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say at this time. If you enjoyed this video and would like to continue to see this content, by all means, I will continue to provide that to you week after week on the World of Wrestling channel. We also do cover pro wrestling and all that stuff. So if you are interested in pro wrestling as well, this is the place to see what my viewpoint on that and how I viewed the shows as well. I don't go over outside sources like news and rumors yet because I do have a busy life and I have other things I'd rather do. But anyway, I thank you guys very much for watching. Again, hit the like button if you liked the video. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And leave a comment down below. I'll definitely get back to you on that. Thank you guys very much for watching.